សួស្តីអស់លោកលោកស្រីជាទីមេត្រីថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំបាទមានកិត្តិយសជាខ្លាំងដោយសារបានទទួលភ្ញៀវដ៏សំខាន់ម្នាក់គឺលោក Matthew Tone ដែលជាអ្នកថតខ្សែភាពយន្តឯកសារមួយនៅប្រទេសអង់គ្លេសហើយតទៅនេះខ្ញុំបាទប្រាក់សេរីវុឌ្ឍដែលជាអ្នកសម្ភាសន៍នឹងសួរសំណួរទៅលោក Matthew Tone. Good evening, Mr. Matthew Tone. We are very happy and honored to have you come to our Khmer Kram community in San Jose, California.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and what is the purpose of your trip here?
So I came on this trip because I wanted to start work on a new documentary, which I hope will be a documentary of the book by Peter Scott called The Lost Crusade, which chronicles Chow Rep and the other Khmer soldiers from during the war with Peter and their journey from the late 1950s until the present day. And it encounters obviously the turmoil in Indochina and the fight for Khmer self-determination and human rights, and ends in America here. So that's the plan. Well, this trip I came because I was going to Salt Lake City to go to the Sundance Film Festival, which is probably the most prestigious independent film festival certainly in America, if not in the world, because a film that I had produced last year was included, called Joshua, Teenager versus Superpower, and that was about the Hong Kong democracy movement and about a young teenage boy who had become the sort of face of democracy and self-determination movement for Hong Kong people. And the film festival was very snowy and very cold, but very successful. We were lucky enough to win the Audience Award in the World Documentary category, so the democratically elected award we won, so I'm pretty pleased with that. And seeing as I was in California, it seemed that it was a good time to come and meet Chow Rep and the other Khmer people in San Jose to begin researching for hopefully what will be my next documentary. And tonight I am flying to Cleveland to meet Peter Scott, and I'll spend 2 days with Peter, and we will hopefully I will hear his version of events. I just heard today and yesterday I just heard Chow Rep's version of events, so tomorrow and Tuesday I will hear Peter's version of events, and hopefully we will have I think we have a great story, so I'm hoping it's going to be a great documentary, and maybe we can be at Sundance in a year or two and bring the Khmer story and the fight for self-determination for Khmer people to a much wider audience. That's my plan. The last film was sold to Netflix, which is a great platform in terms of there's 93 million subscribers in 190 countries. There's a lot of people and a lot of people around the world. So my hope is if we can do the same again, that would be a dream come true, really, and it would be a great way of promoting the Khmer cause and what's happening to Khmer people in southern Vietnam right now.
By the way, how do you get to know Mr. Peter Scott and Mr. Chow Rep?
So this is kind of a funny story in that I about 6 years ago I was working on a film called Enemies of the People with a gentleman called Rob Lemkin who made that film with Tet Sambat, who was a Cambodian journalist, and Tet Sambat had spent more than 10 years befriending and interviewing Noon Chia, who was Pol Pot's number 2 in the Khmer Rouge era. And that film again did incredibly well, was very critically acclaimed, and won a special jury prize at Sundance in 2010. And somehow in the sort of screenings that followed, probably here in San Jose, somebody gave Rob Lemkin The Lost Crusade, Peter Scott's book featuring Chow Rep, and when Rob Lemkin got back to England, he sort of handed me a whole load of books that he had got on his trip and said, read them. And so I did. And that was the book that really stuck in my mind as being the really good book that was really interesting and that I liked. And you know, I thought at the time it would make a really great documentary, but you know, circumstances and other projects and you know, what have you got in the way. And it wasn't until really the summer just gone by, so 2016, the summer 2016, so you know, pretty much 6 years after that I originally got the book, that I thought, actually, you know, maybe now is the time to turn this, to make this my next project. So I contacted Peter. You know, this is the beauty of Facebook, you can find people quite easily. And then we got talking and he agreed, so I optioned the rights to the book. And you know, now I've done a lot of research and reading about the chemochrome cause and about what happened in the 50s, 60s and 70s and the 80s. And now it seems to be like the time, hopefully, to turn all that research into a movie. So that's the plan.
Since you read the book, The Lost Crusade by Major Peter Scott, the U.S. Army retired, have you been able to go back to Cambodia land in the Mekong Delta, southern Vietnam? Yeah,
so I've been to Cambodia twice, and on my second trip to Cambodia, we actually went into southern Vietnam, and we went to Cambodia. You know, I had read the book at that time, so I was aware of the story and I was interested in it, and I thought, oh, you know, let's go and do some research. So we went to Chao Doc and then Triton, and then we went around Cam Mountain, Sam Mountain, Koto Mountain. We went really to the areas that are featured in the book, and it was it was a really great trip. So I sort of feel that I've at least seen the places where these events happened, and I have some sort of understanding, although pretty keen to go back soon to see it again, because I went in 2011 when I was first starting to think about doing this documentary. It's taken me 5 or 6 years to get from thinking about doing it to actually doing it.
And what do you expect the duration of the film that you might shoot?
Well, I think we'd probably go for about 78, 80 minutes. You know, I think that if you're going to make a documentary, you should do it properly and with feature length. So 80 minutes would be probably a good length. No more than 90. I think, you know, somewhere between 75 and 90 is usually a good limit. And you start getting over 90, it starts becoming an opus. It's better to keep it shorter and sweeter. You know, obviously the key thing to bear in mind is that the documentary would be for general audiences in the United States. So rather than making a film which could be incredibly detailed and provide lots and lots of information, whilst I think that obviously the history is very interesting and that I am fascinated by it, I also know that if we want to get as many eyeballs as possible to watch this film and as many people to care about the chemochrome cause, then the best way to do it is to try to keep it, you know, relatively simple. And you know, the documentary is not about feeding someone with facts. A documentary is about piquing someone's interest. You know, once you've got them interested in the topic, they can go and do the reading and the books, and then they can learn all the facts. We've got to tell them a really good story that gets people interested and keen to want to learn more about chemochrome people. You know, I'm sure there are tons and tons of people who live in San Jose who have no idea that there is a chemochrome community right here on their doorstep, and they have no idea the trials and tribulations that community has suffered to get here, and is still suffering on the other side of the Pacific. So if we can awaken those people, then that would be great.
Would it be able for you to give us a brief description about the special relationship between the author of the book, Major Peter Scott, and the Khmer Crown, who in the book Mr. Charlie.
Sure. So the book, I guess one reason why it appealed to me was it's essentially a story of everlasting friendship or brotherhood between two incredibly unlikely friends. You know, one is, you know, a white American GI who is not drafted, actually signs up to go to Vietnam, who's, you know, well educated, comes from a middle class background, sort of has a lot of privileges of life, and the other is a, you know, Khmer paramilitary or fighting in the White Scarfs, the Fronts de Lutte de Kampuchea Krom, you know, and they could not be from more different worlds. So they have both cultural, linguistic obstacles, and plus, you know, there's this war going on, which means everyone is very suspicious of each other. Nobody knows, you know, where people's loyalties really lie, and yet, despite all of those difficulties and all of those differences, they're able to form this amazing friendship and do anything for each other. You know, they're genuinely, you know, like brothers, and I think that is incredibly powerful, and particularly in this day and age where we seem to be wanting to separate each other and find what's different amongst us when actually we're not really very different at all. And I think a story of friendship and unity across such massive cultural difference can hopefully bring communities together, not just the Khmer Krom community, but, you know, in general, all the different communities of America could hopefully benefit from a story where, you know, friendship can supersede those boundaries that we set for ourselves.
During the present situation in the United States, about their frustration with the refugee migration into the United States and Europe, would this film that show the devotion, the loyalty of a refugee who used to serve the American troops' interest in the foreign country like South Vietnam, would it motivate the American public to, you know, to have some sympathy for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the reasons why, unfortunately, what's happening right now with the sort of ban on refugees is that so many people actually have a very limited understanding of refugees. They have somehow got into their mind that you know, if you're a refugee, you're coming here to do damage to the country. And I think, you know, there's plenty of statistical evidence to show that actually refugees are usually incredibly grateful to be given a safe haven, and that they become model citizens. And that actually, if we look at you know, the terror attacks that have occurred in the US, such as 9/11, they weren't perpetrated by refugees. Interestingly, they were perpetrated by people who came from countries that aren't currently on the banned list. So, you know, I think the current ban, seems to me to be unwise and certainly badly implemented, perhaps not even necessary at all. So, you know, I'm hoping that we can do a film which can show, you know, here's a conflict that happened 40 years ago, but the people were coming as refugees not straight away after, in 75. They were coming, you know, from 75, but all the way up until the sort of 1990s. And I think hopefully we can show that, you know, actually refugees can make a positive contribution to American society, and that, you know, perhaps demonizing refugees is really not the best way forward for a cohesive, healthy society for everyone to participate in.
So far, how many Khmer Crown that you met who used to serve with the U.S. Special Forces that relate in the books, the Lost Crusade?
So far I found 3. So Chow Rep, Assembly, and Abdulaziz. all in California, which makes it a little bit more convenient for me. Hopefully we will be able to track down a few more, and I'm in the process of still tracking down their American counterparts. But I think we have a great story. There's no doubt about that. It's a great story. It's just about how we can best bring it to the screen.
What have you done in the past? You have any movie, film that you have produced before?
Yeah.
Prior to this?
Yeah. So prior to this, then the one that was just playing at Sundance called Joshua: Teenager versus Superpower. That'll be on Netflix come the summer. And before that, I had produced and directed a film called Lessons in Descent, also in Hong Kong, and that was a feature doc as well. And then before that, I had worked as an associate producer on Enemies of People, which was a film about Cambodia and the genocide that happened there. So all my films that I've worked on have all had sort of Asian topics, because my sort of academic background is Asian studies, and they're all documentaries.
You speak any Khmer language?
I know one or two words, basically, because I hear them all the time, but that's about it. But my Cantonese is okay.
Speak Cantonese fluently?
No, I don't speak fluently. I can direct taxis and order food and tell people what I need to do, but it's sufficient to get around, so it's fine.
This is the first time you came to the Khmer Krom Buddhist temple in San Jose, California?
It was the first time to the Cunningham Avenue is the first time.
How's your impression when you see the Khmer Krom community come?
It's nice, I think it's great that the temple serves not only as a place to worship, but also as a community centre where people can gather. It's no different from a Christian church in that regard. And I think, it's a good thing to have, definitely.
When you was at Svai Tom, Chao Dok province in southern Vietnam, were you able to visit the Khmer Krom Buddhist temple over there?
Well, we went to, obviously we could go and see some temples and things. We could see, you could see which ones were the Khmer ones regarding that. I had an interest, obviously, because I was interested in this book and interested in the story. So I had already sort of asked people around, what is the Khmer Krom things that I can see, as opposed to the Vietnamese things. But also I kept a relatively low profile because it's still a sensitive topic in southern Vietnam.
Okay.
I tried to be an interested tourist rather than a potential documentary maker.
We appreciate your interview and
My
also
pleasure.
your intention to make this film happen. That's very helpful to our people.
Well, I hope it happens. I'm looking forward to making it, so I'm sure it will happen. How quickly I can make it happen is the question. It's not about if, it's about how fast can it happen.
And on behalf of the Khmer Krom people, either in the US or outside America or in Cambodia, we are very grateful to you and to your crewmen and also to the American servicemen who devote their life to protect our freedom during the oppression there.
What I always try to say is, as a documentary maker, I'm not doing anything other than documenting the hard work of other people. I think, my job is the easy bit. I get to turn the camera on and hear someone tell their story. It's the people like Chow Reap who have been through incredibly difficult times who really deserve the respect and the congratulations for everything they've done. So thank you very much, but aim the congratulations to stalwarts like Chow Reap. I think his story is unbelievable, and I think he serves as a inspiration, I'm sure, to many people in the Khmer Krom community. I'm hoping he'll serve as an inspiration to many people beyond the Khmer Krom community when we finish making the film.
Yeah, and my deep gratitude to Mr. Peter Scott
Yeah.
for writing this book. Without him, we don't know.
Exactly. If he hadn't written the book, then I wouldn't have known about it, and then we wouldn't be here today. So, as always, I think Peter's done. He did a fantastic job with the book.
Yeah.
Not only is it obviously a great memoir and an exciting story, but it's also incredibly well written. And having read a lot of books around this topic, I can tell you most of them are not well written. So, I think Peter is quite a novelist.
Yeah, and he's a gentleman.
Yes.
Because I met him twice. Yeah, down to earth, sincere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm meeting him tomorrow, but having Skyped with him on numerous occasions, he seems like a superb human being.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.